Hey everyone, Happy New Year. Well, okay, it's a few weeks after the new year, but that's honestly on brand, so, it's whatever. So 2024 was a pretty novel year for me. While my Steam recap thing states I played less games in 2024 than the previous years, I played a lot more new releases this year, as well as many games on other platforms like the Epic Games Store and Game Pass. So I'm gonna do the thing that every gaming YouTuber does and talk about my favorites of 2024. This list is not a comprehensive one, and I'm certainly not saying that these were the objective best games of 2024. In fact, the only 2024 Game of the Year contender that I played was Balatro. Now, I intend to change that this year, but we'll see. This list is just my personal favorites of the games that I did play this year, as well as my personal Game of the Year. After that, I want to also discuss the games I played for the first time in 2024 that didn't release that year. Maybe unconventional, but I played so many important games to gaming culture as a whole, as well as my own inspirations, that I have to mention them in some way, shape, or form. But enough prelude. Let's get on with my favorites from 2024. I'll hit the top 5 runner-ups in order, then my personal game of the year. Starting off strong with Animal Well. This was a fantastic experience. Beautiful platformer slash puzzle game that was way more spooky than I bargained for. A great puzzle game can challenge the player without making them feel hopeless and stupid. I definitely felt that way a few times, but each time it happened, the solution just turned out to be a very simple, almost obvious one, so skill issue on my part. All of the mechanics fit together like a perfect puzzle. The movement, while it took a second to get used to, felt great, especially on controller. Any game that makes me actually use my controller instead of a mouse and keyboard just is a win in my book. It's simply an amazing package all around. It's deceptively simple. With so much depth, I still don't think I found like half the shit the game has hidden. I didn't even know there was a fast travel mechanic with the flute until a community member pointed it out to me. So there's a lot to discover. And even without finding and solving a lot of the side stuff and secrets, it was a fulfilling 10 hours that I would gladly give again. In fact, I'm kind of thinking I should give it a replay. And now moving on to number 4. This one goes to Balatro. I know this is probably a lot of people's game of the year, and out of the official picks, it was certainly mine. Though, I might be a little bit biased on that, considering it's the only one I played. But given how consistently good this game is, it deserves a high spot. And damn it, it got it. I'm still glued to it on mobile. I do 1, 2, maybe 5 runs a day. Well, it depends on the day. I have a problem. It's not good. I'm hopelessly addicted to this game. It being constantly available on my phone definitely doesn't help. At least it isn't like a real poker game or anything, because I would be destitute. It really is just a perfectly designed game. Being a roguelite adds to the replayability and the addiction factor, but even without it, the mechanics are so tight, the art style gorgeous, the music mesmerizing. I could reasonably see myself attempting to 100% this game, and that just doesn't really happen because I'm lazy. But that's all I'll say here. I said really all I have to say in my full video, so go watch that if you haven't. And now for number 3. This one goes to the late but great contender, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. This is how you do a goddamn movie game, okay? Which is wild for me to say because I had no idea it was coming out until it came out, and then it had my undivided attention until I finished it. This game kicked so much ass. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say that I grew up on the movies like a lot of people did. The first one I saw was actually Crystal Skull when I was like 8 or 9 or something like that. I don't know, somewhere around there. I don't know. And then when I saw Raiders, I was such a baby about that face melting scene at the end that it put me off for a few years. But when I came back and watched the original 3 a few years later, they found a place in my brain to stay. It is genuinely a great story game in all aspects. The central plot is very good and the perfect Indiana Jones story, along with plenty of side mysteries and stories being told in the background. Taking historical and mythological concepts, making them real and powerful, the sense of wonder and adventure, the sheer goofiness at times, it's just perfect. It hit the perfect tone right on the money. The gameplay is really well done too. I generally struggle with brawler type games as I seem to just have problems with like block and dodge timing, but after a while I did get the mechanics down as far as I really needed to. Using firearms feels very powerful but risky because it immediately eliminates all stealth you have, alerts everybody to your location. It's powerful, but holy shit, you don't want to use it because then you die. You get every single person converges on your location and then you're dead. It sucks. It's not fun. But the guns feel great. The weapon animations and especially the stealth takedowns are impactful and devastating. And the weapon variety, just staggering. I love the whole pick up an object and bash a fascist head in methodology that the game has. It's really fun and it lends to this fluidity of combat it keeps the game flowing, and it's just fun. It really is just fun. One minor beef I have with the combat is that just throwing feels worthless. It does so little damage, and then you just like lose the weapon, and depending on the weapon, it might break. So you throw it, it does tiny bit of damage, you lose the weapon, and then you're screwed because you can't really block enemies that have their own weapons. So I'd really rather just not have the temptation. Like, it's not realistic to have a damage boost, but it would make it a lot more fun. It's a video game, it's fiction. It would be way more fun if you actually did good damage throwing things. So that's just my main gripe with the combat. Also, the puzzles. I only got stuck like once or twice on a puzzle, and each time, not for very long. They were all very intuitive, well designed, and just tricky enough to make me feel like a genius upon solving them. The characters were all either likable or just hateable enough to skirt the line of being annoying. When writing villains, I feel sometimes you can get into like a less evil and more like a just shut the fuck up, you're so annoying type, and the Great Circle managed to stay just inside where it needed to be with its antagonists. All around, great game, a great movie game, and well deserving of its number 3 spot. We're really getting up there, aren't we? Well, time for number 2, the runner-up of runner-ups, and that is Echo Point Nova. I will shill for this game till the end of time, till my dying breath. If you enjoy any type of fluid, fast-paced mover shooter nonsense packed into a 7 to 10 hour time frame for a full complete, you have to play this game. I already made an entire video talking about why it deserves your money. Yes, you, who I'm talking to right now, you watching the video, I want to say Jeff? You? Yeah, play this game. Just buy the game, okay? There's a demo available if you want to just do that. It's got all the stuff. It's fantastic. Just buy the game. Play it. You'll see. It's fantastic. Okay? Okay? Deal? Pinky promise? All right, good. Okay, just traversing around the map, not even getting into combat, is a joy. Echo Point Nova is another game that takes one simple idea and runs with it 200%. It's Titanfall with a hoverboard. It's Titanfall with a hoverboard. What more could you want? Just play it. It's great. Go watch my review video, then play the game. It would be my number 1 runner-up for 2024 if it weren't for the number 1 that I think anyone who's been on the channel would see coming. And that is Satisfactory. There is so much that I want to say about this game. So much that instead of saying it all here, I have a full-length deep dive video in the works to be complete when I actually finish the damn game. Now, technically, Satisfactory has been available and playable for years now in early access, and hell, I'd say it has been like a 98% full experience for at least the last 2 years. But hey, it had its full 1.0 release in 2024, so it makes the list. It's just so good. It's satisfactory. Currently, it's sitting on my number 2 spot of playtime on Steam, just behind Stellaris, but I'm sure by the time I actually finish the damn thing, it'll greatly surpass that. It's just everything I want from a factory building / automation game. I get distracted and overwhelmed way too easily, so the casual aspects of the game, like infinite resources, allow me to enjoy it immensely, while the mathematical and logistical challenges of the late game keep me engaged in thinking. And it would be my game of the year, except for 2 small little problems. For one, I played a lot of it in early access. I had about 350-ish, maybe 400 hours logged before it hit 1.0. With how much I already have attached to this game, it would be disingenuous to call it my game of the year. Maybe like game of the last 5 years? I don't know. But the other factor is because while I love it to death, it's mostly the same game I've been playing off and on the last few years. 1.0 saw a lot of additions and improvements, but my game of the year was a new game that completely upended my existence. It was my first time actually enjoying a game in the genre it belongs to. Something I can enjoy on my own just as easily as with friends. And, okay, enough stalling. It's Helldivers 2, obviously. Obviously, it's Helldivers 2. Helldivers 2 is my game of the year. If you thought it wasn't, you're crazy. I first played it a month after it came out. I saw some people talking about it, but from what I had heard, was not very interested. I don't typically go for squad-based multiplayer games, even if they are PvE. I've talked a lot about how I don't do PvP games because I'm just bad at them and they're frustrating because I lose a lot and it's not fun to lose and I can never get good enough than the people who actually dedicate time to it because I get distracted too easily. But I digress. I don't do squad-based games. Normally, I only enjoy that type of game with friends, like in Lethal Company. I cannot get enjoyment out of that game on my own with random servers. Even with like one friend in randos, I just can't do it. I just can't bring myself to have fun with people I don't know in games like that. But then I saw more people talking and clip after clip of the sickest, most cinematic third-person shooter bullshit I have ever seen and decided, fuck it, I'll try it. Why not? Why not? And then I decided it was going to be my game of the year within 2 weeks. It took my life by storm. I have never been as invested in a multiplayer shooter game like I have this one. I was involved in conversations in the Discord before it devolved into a nightmare like large internet gatherings are wont to do, but I was also checking galactic war stats while away from home, actually taking time to get good at the game, and most surprising, actually talking to people and communicating while in game. I've always been someone who loves the idea of stuff like proximity voice chat. I think it is something that can take a decent multiplayer game and make it something special. But I am not the most socially adept when it comes to conversing with people I perceive to be strangers, hence why I don't play things like Lethal Company with randos. And yes, Helldivers 2 does not have a proximity voice chat, but this applies to all voice chats. Even without a voice chat function, Helldivers 2 has a perfect level of alternate comm systems in place with the simple but robust ping wheel and the map pins. A simple follow me ping followed by a quick location ping can alert a teammate to a bunker, or a quick ping on a patrol can signal at enemies to either remove or avoid. And if all else fails, on PC at least, there's a text chat. You can jump into a game, not say a word to the other players, and still have fantastic team synergy with the use of pings. It is great. And yet I still feel compelled to use the voice chat. Not only do I actually use it, I enjoy it. Calling out for stalkers, pinging a group, and mentioning a specific enemy to watch out for, like roleplay with the players, it's just so much fun. And the characters you meet in the game too. You'll meet people who are just roleplaying to the max, or they'll like do a different voice every time they die to be a different Helldiver. It's great. It is so much fun. I love interacting with the Helldivers community in-game. Outside of the game, not so much, but inside the game, it is a blast. And that's not to mention the beautiful gameplay itself. The shooting, immaculate. The weapon and enemy designs, divine. The maps, gorgeous. The litany of potential objectives and missions somehow keeps the game fresh after hundreds of dives. The 2, now 3 factions help a lot. They have such drastically different playstyles that if I get bored of one, I can jump into another and it's like a completely different game. Now, I did discuss in my Helldivers 2 What Happened video that the gameplay loop can and will get boring for a lot of people, as it is the same mission over and over again. I like it from a gameplay standpoint, and it works thematically too, being an endless, pointless war being manufactured by super. One of the first things I noticed when I got over my fear of people and played with some groups is how naturally tactical you start to think and act due to friendly fire being persistent. I've seen a lot of games try and fail to do like the tactical feel, but Helldivers 2 nails it without really trying. Finding choke points and vantage points to cover each other and staying out of firing lines, calling out turrets and airstrikes, and just so much more. It really sends home the feeling of fighting in a unit of well-prepped special operatives. And of course, the humor factor of accidentally carpet bombing your friends is a huge plus too. All around, just a phenomenal game that I will continue to think about and play for years to come. What's insane is that there's just so many games that came out last year. It was a stacked year for games. There's a lot that I wanted to play but didn't get around to, like Sulaco, I'm Your Beast, Canito Pet, Pacific Drive, Planet Coaster 2, just to name a few, and some games I played a bit of that I was enjoying and would enjoy more but got busy with other games that came out, like Blade and Sorcery or Star Wars Outlaws. Part of that reason is I didn't just play games I've played before or new releases last year. As much as I enjoy video games, there is a long-ass list of classic and important games that I've never played, but I'm slowly whittling that list down. I hit a few real big ones last year. I'm not going to talk about all of them, but I want to discuss the few that would have at least made the top 5, if not Game of the Year, had I played them when they came out. I started 2024 kicking off my full stream series of Red Dead Redemption 2 after much suggestion from the community here. Okay, technically, I played it first in 2023, but I barely made it to the end of the prologue before my old PC shat out on me and I wasn't able to stream anymore. I started my full playthrough as a sort of reset at January last year, so I'm counting it for 2024. And what a game that is. A massive, fully immersive, and eerily realistic world full of characters that feel like real people with shit tons of dynamic systems and animations. Plus an amazing story full of great characters to boot. I had a lot of fun with it, and honestly, I barely even scratched the surface. For the sake of time, I skipped a lot of optional and side content, though I did spend a fair share of time hunting and fishing and gallivanting around. I focused on the main story and the main side missions. While I missed some small details and maybe some minor plot threads due to the whole streaming thing, The main story just resonated with me deeply, and I loved nearly every moment of this game. I did have some gripes though. I'm not a huge fan of Rockstar's shooting physics, but it was serviceable enough and the weapon designs helped a lot. Also, just for personal preference, I think it might be a little bit too immersive at times. It's the little things, like needing to eat regularly, but not too regularly, in order to keep from getting debuffs is annoying. It's a part of the experience and the immersion. And I can tell that one of Rockstar's biggest goals is to make lifelike games with as much immersion as possible, but I mean, look at my top 5 from 2024. Even Indiana Jones being a beautiful game with cutting-edge graphics and a lot of realism in the combat and stuff, it does a great job balancing immersion and fun. Sometimes more immersion is less fun. And it's really weird that there's so much focus on immersion and consistency and realism when Red Dead 2 has some of the worst ludonarrative dissonance I have ever seen in a game. A gang of outlaws, on the run from the government, desperate for money, and low on time, yet you can just fuck off for multiple in-game weeks, make thousands of dollars more than what Dutch needs, or do nothing forever, and there's no bearing on the story. I mean, it isn't the worst instance of L&D I've seen, but the juxtaposition of the level of detail and the immersion is just weird. I occasionally do wonder if the story would be better suited to like a more limited, half linear, half open world game like The Great Circle, but I'm not a video game writer. I'm an idiot with an opinion. All that said, if I had played it as I am now in 2018 when it came out, it would have easily been in my top 5. Maybe not Game of the Year, as Dead Cells and Subnautica came out in that year too, and I love those games to death, but certainly in the top. The other game, or series of games, I guess, is the Alan Wake duology, plus that in-between game that probably should have been a DLC. But these games floored me, especially 2. They actually rewired how I think about horror media in general and games in specificity. Granted, Alan Wake 1 was more of a thriller, but who gives a shit? Genres are just pointless and another way to justify criticism based on arbitrary boxes. Anyway, the first Alan Wake took me for a ride I was not expecting. I was expecting a pretty okay survival horror thing with a decent story. Instead, I got something way more than that. I played Control for the first time back in like 2021 without knowing about its connections to like the wider Remedyverse or anything there. I really enjoyed that game, and even more so now with the context from the Alan Wake games. While Alan Wake had some dated mechanics like most games from that era, I was so roped in the story I literally did not care. The atmosphere, the spectacle, the character writing, it all came together so beautifully I couldn't look away. I was engrossed in this game. Like, I had problems with Red Dead 2 when I was playing it, as in like I got distracted by chat too much and I missed stuff in the game. But for Alan Wake, I was locked the fuck in. I didn't miss shit in that game. Like, I missed stuff in the game, but I didn't miss shit because I was getting distracted, because the story had me by the balls and it would not let go. American Nightmare, the half sequel / arcade title, was enjoyable too. Very fun, decent little story. It was goofy. It should have been a DLC probably. Basically, the Night Springs DLC in Alan Wake 2 was just that again, but better, because they knew what they were doing more. But anyway, it gave us the best Old Gods of Asgard song, so it's got a special place in my heart. I love that game. I love that song. Thank you, Poets of the Fall. It also introduced a lot of concepts and themes that were expanded greatly in Alan Wake 2, which is a game that broke me apart and put me back together live on stream. I don't want to say too much here because I am working on a huge video discussing like the Remedyverse as a whole, all the Alan Wake games, Control, Quantum Break, when I do like all of my replays, and I want to do all my discussion there. So we're going to cut it short here. But let's just say, if Baldur's Gate 3 wasn't such a cultural phenomenon that took the world and my brain by storm, Alan Wake 2 would have been my 2023 game of the year. You know, also had I played it in 2023. Currently, it would sit in that number 1 runner-up spot. It is peak. The last game I want to touch on is Disco Elysium. I'm not finished with my first playthrough yet. I'm about halfway through the main storyline, I believe, and depending on who you ask, it's either a pretentious novel attempting to be a video game or the greatest RPG ever made. I lean towards the latter. It's so good. Not only is its story, world, and characters captivating beyond belief, the gameplay is so tight in scope that it can do basically whatever it wants. 90% of the game takes place in dialogue, and the other 10% is just walking around holding the right button and clicking on shit. There's no combat or anything. All of that takes place inside dialogue with skill checks or just good choices. The RPG elements are the game, instead of it being like an action shooter with some RPG elements thrown in for a time sync or replayability or something else. My current run is the default intellect build, so I could learn as much as I could about the world for my first playthrough, and I'm really excited to see what the other potential builds have in terms of like choices and story and character work and everything later. I am just, oh, I want to keep playing this game. I want to keep playing this game. Okay, it's just so good. Easily top 5 of 2019. Hell, there is a possibility it could have beaten Control. It really depends on how I feel when I finish the game. We'll see, but it's fucking good. It's really good. For 2025, I have 2 primary goals for my presence on the channel. I want to play as many new releases as I can and also try to sprinkle in the classics where applicable. I already have a bunch that I'm excited for, but I'm curious what you are looking forward to release this year. Let me know down below and I'll likely add it to the list. Realistically, I won't be able to hit them all, but I am damn well gonna fucking try, all right? And that's pretty much all I have to say today. 2024 was a pretty damn good year for games, at least on the consumer side. I really wish the state of the industry itself would reflect the crazy success that I've seen all over this year, but corporate greed and executive stupidity led to many game development jobs lost, ranging from layoffs to entire studios closing. Hell, the main creative minds for Disco Elysium got dicked over royally by the executives in 2021, so even critically and commercially acclaimed games aren't safe. It's kind of depressing to talk so much about these amazing games that came out this year, knowing that regardless of how well they do, the artists could just get screwed over for no reason, other than the executives want more money or the executives are stupid and don't understand what people want. Well, on that happy note, I have nothing left to discuss. Despite my concerns about everything, I have some high hopes for this year. Some really cool shit is coming out that I cannot wait for, and I have a lot of great videos and streams planned. So with that, I'm gonna let you go. Thank you all so much for watching. And I really hope you enjoyed. If you did, consider hitting that sub button and be a part of my journey into 2025. Barring anything crazy, it should be a pretty fun time. Either way, have a fantastic rest of your day, take care of yourself, and I'll see you next time.